I want to address the elephant in the room with content marketing. I touched upon it in my last video, but I need to expand on why, even when there's more content than ever, you are not too late and you're not bothering anyone. In this video, I'll explain what you uniquely bring and how to express that unique voice that makes folks excited to see that you've posted a new video, a new podcast episode, or open up that email. The problem is, there are a lot of people who are bothering people with their marketing. They're emailing people daily, telling them to buy their program or their digital product. And while people suggest it because I'm sure it gives them sales, but it screams desperation. Yikes. And for the folks like you and me who understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of that, we don't want to add to that noise or turn people off. But the problem is you swing so hard in the other direction that no one knows about you, your values, your story, your expertise, and how to work with you. I was in a workshop this week with Robert Hartwell, and he said something so powerful I need to put it on my bathroom mirror. In that workshop, he said, "It will appear when you appear. We cannot grow if we aren't visible. It's impossible." If you are ready to get visible, I'm doing an interactive workshop this coming Thursday, April 4th. Sorry, I had to think about that for a second. Where we take your ideas, we're going to create your brain dumps, your projects, your tasks, and we're going to create a prioritized marketing action plan for Q2 and beyond. So go ahead and check the video description to register for that and get that action plan. I teach AI to content creators, service providers, and entrepreneurs. But I'll tell you, there are certain things that AI cannot replicate because other humans can't either. No one has the same journey as you. This seems obvious, but I do want to be more specific. No one is going to fail exactly like you have or learn lessons in the same situations. They're also not going to have the same takeaways and insight from those lessons, from those failures, and from those successes. And this is why people like to consume content. They're here for the education aspect, but it's the journey and seeing the progress unfold. I love watching music YouTube channels, and music fans love being the one to discover a new artist or enjoy them before they achieve that commercial success. In my case as a teenager, I loved rediscovering bands that inspired the popular bands that I was already listening to. It's also why artists and creatives, they experience a lot of success with content that is time-lapse type of videos that takes that sketch or that idea and shows the completed project. This is an inherent curiosity gap that's being created. We want to see where this leads and what the end is going to be. But other types of creators, you can use this as well. No one also has the same voice as you. You know when you hear yourself on a video or a podcast and you can't even recognize your physical voice? And often you even sound annoying to yourself. Okay, that might be just me, but I sound annoying to myself when I hear myself back. But this is also true from that stylistic perspective as well. You think you sound like everyone else when you're listening to your content or reading it over for yourself because you are not reading or watching or listening to it to yourself the way someone else does. I feel like half of my job with clients is just telling them how they sound to an outsider and how they can lean into that even more. But it's different to experience it for yourself, which is why we talked about this last week, but it became apparent to me that my voice was distinctive the more feedback and replies that I was getting on my content. Just because it's like a blog or a video or a podcast that has that longevity doesn't mean that you have to be buttoned up. The feedback that I've been getting from folks is that my content is relatable and real. I've noticed that the content that I find engaging and entertaining, because I'm on YouTube watching lots of things, I listen to podcasts, but the stuff that I notice that I tend to listen to or watch is irreverent, even self-deprecating, humorous, nerdy, and having that touch of unorthodox or rebelliousness. And of course, now that I wrote that down in the script and reading it out to myself, I can see now that that is stuff that is present in my own voice. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, we are all a collection of the people, the content, the books, bands, friends, colleagues, and all of those aspects that have inspired us. But no one has that exact same collection as you do. So here is an action step for you. I like to be actionable in some of these as well. What authors, what books, historical figures, content creators inspire you? Write them down. You can brain dump if you want. Make your own observations of what some of those people have in common. What I did, and I actually think this could be a good exercise for y'all as well, I chose the top 5 influential authors, because I tend to write a lot, and asked Google Gemini or, ChatGPT, whatever you choose to use, how that they would define those voices. And I was really surprised by the results because a lot of them were very similar, and what were the common denominators that even like ChatGPT and Google Gemini were able to see through all of their written works. That was something that was really helpful for me to understand my own voice and what was inspiring that voice, or how I can lean into that aspect even more. Most people have a career, a day job, and I want to be clear, there's nothing wrong with having a 9-to-5. But I have a feeling that if you're watching this video, you want something more. Maybe creating is just a side hustle right now. Maybe you're a freelancer or a service provider. Maybe you're doing it full time right now. But either way, you are building something greater than yourself. We don't take this path without a good reason. And that's your purpose. And guess what? No one shares that with you. Maybe there was a loss that you suffered or some sort of crisis that made you realize that what you were doing wasn't working, or maybe the status quo itself wasn't helping you. Or, in my case, maybe that you weren't made for that standard corporate trajectory that everybody else was on that same pathway. From when I post this, the Sunday before, 2 days before, is Transgender Day of Visibility. And it's made me reflect on how my own identity has impacted my entrepreneurship. I did actually write an article about it for the Freelance Exchange of Kansas City, so I'll link that below in the video description if you want to read further. But for me, the identities that I hold, being queer, gender fluid, having PTSD, having multiple chronic illnesses, being neurodivergent, being a passionately outspoken person, made me exist in just a world that was not compatible with being an employee for other people. I am not an employable person, and I own that. But all of those things are what make my work with clients compassionate, fueled by connection. My content is real because I honestly do not know another way to be in life. And this is why I get these replies and feedback that people can't wait to consume my content, because in doing it for myself, I finally feel free to be unfiltered. In a workshop a couple of years ago, someone asked me what the difference between having core values and a purpose is. And the first thing that came to mind for me was I answered, why haven't you given up yet? This journey is hard. There are setbacks, and it will stretch you in ways that you may never have had to before. It will challenge your core beliefs. It will keep you up at night. And if it were just about money, you could go to law school, become a hedge fund manager. If you think that your purpose is just for you to understand, I would encourage you to think differently about it, because your purpose can also be the fuel that inspires others to keep going. Like the journey we discussed before, it also gives people a reason to continue rooting for your success. Sometimes these elements of your uniqueness, they don't become apparent until you start creating and having some of that evidence under your belt. All writers, all creatives really, have to find their voice through the act of the creative process. So when you land in someone's inbox or feed, they still have the autonomy and the choice whether to open it or consume what you're writing. People are making that conscious choice to sit by that proverbial fire and listen what you have to say. And because you care enough and value their time and attention, it is going to be heartfelt, real, and unique. Because when it comes to content now, anyone can ask ChatGPT or Google about topics and subjects and how to learn something. But your voice, journey, and purpose are yours alone. Thanks for watching.